Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scouts. Here we will look at the best captaincy options for Game Week 30. My name is Joe and joining me is David. David, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Bit of a tough one for Game Week 29, the captaincy, because we still don't really know how that's gone as we currently record, because we've still got Arsenal and Man City to come midweek. But it's quite tough to, I guess consider those necessarily at the forefront of the captaincy for Game Week 30. So there's still plenty we can talk about with Liverpool and Man United, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a tough one this week. Rotation fears mounting, form being brought into question, some tricky, on paper at least, ties. But we all know where form and fixture's gone so far this season. Let's start with Liverpool. Mane or Salah against Everton could be lucrative given the Toffees' woeful recent defensive displays. But are the Reds really the best armband options?
Yeah, I think we're all sort of drawn straight away to that particular fixture when you look at some of the scores that Everton have suffered recently. But I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm not going to captain a Liverpool player, but I think we forget sometimes the kind of the unquantifiable element of a Merseyside derby. There's many times we've gone into one of these things where Everton have shown some bad defensive form, Liverpool have been fantastic attacking form, and then it's finished 0-0. Or it's been a 1-1, and it's kind of one of those games where, Gomez and Delph get the goals because both teams sort of play differently than they normally would because they don't want to lose it. Whether or not that's what happens this time, it's hard to tell. Arguably, you could even say that Everton are going to be more up for it than usual because, theoretically speaking, it could be a game where if Liverpool win it, they win the league. I don't really think Everton want Liverpool to be able to say they won the Premier League at Goodison Park.
No.
There's all sorts of things thrown into it like that. And there's also the fact that with Everton, their manager being Carlo Ancelotti, he's no mug. He obviously is where he is because he's a good manager. When they have a string of bad results, you sometimes expect a team like that, when they have bad defensive displays, you kind of expect that the next game they might actually stop it. Plenty of times we've seen teams defend really badly and then they start to make some changes. That could happen as well. And actually the stats for Everton recently aren't dreadful in terms of the underlying stats. They've conceded 30 shots in the box over the last four, which is basically mid-table, so not thrash worthy, not clean sheet worthy of course, but not Villa levels. Then they conceded 7 big chances, which again is sort of mid-table, and the XG is 5.4 in that period last four, and they conceded 9. So you could argue that they should have conceded fewer goals than they did. And then if they need to not get thrashed against Liverpool, which is the case, definitely, maybe that's when they start following their XG a little bit more. So I don't think this is going to be a massive, massive game for attacking returns. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we can't get something out of Salah and Mane. Now, obviously, Mane and Firmino are probably the more reliable goal scorers to Liverpool away from home. But Salah's still got some nice stats over the last four as well. He's top of all Liverpool players for shots in the box, and he's also top among all Liverpool players for shots on target. We've been saying for a long time we feel like goals are probably going to come for Salah on the road. Picking between the two is quite tough. I think I'd edge towards Salah just because I feel like he's more reliable. But the ownership for Mane is still in a really nice place. That if you're confident enough that he can carry on the form that he's shown on the road this season, then captaining him, because obviously if you'd have done that in the most recent game week, you got more points than Salah did as well. So a nice opportunity for Mane. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I think Everton will make it tough. I think Liverpool will still win, I'm thinking like an 8 or 9 point score for Salah and Mane, which is not too bad for a captaincy, I'd say.
Yeah, I had a look at the last couple of matches because that's where people have started going, oh, that Everton defence doesn't look good. But so they've conceded 5 in the last 2, but the expected goals conceded is just 3. So they have been unlucky. And as you were saying about the other stats there around big chances, it does indicate the Everton defence isn't actually as bad as it may look at first glance. So over the last 2 matches, they've conceded among the fewest shots in the box, just 14, less than half of that of Villa, for example, and that was ahead of Villa's match with Leicester, so that's going to be even more now. And the fewest big chances conceded as well. So Everton's defence has actually been quite good. They've just been a bit unlucky, I think. But I do agree with you. I just look at this fixture and I think I don't think this is the best for the captaincy. It's hard to call. Yes, there could be lots of goals. There could be nothing. And we also know that the way that Klopp is about these derbies, he likes to give other players a chance to it. He's got this thing about the Merseyside derby, quite rightly, as a Liverpool manager, but he does mix it up a bit. So he has been known in the Merseyside derbies to, throw in the likes of Origi, perhaps some of the youngsters might get a go. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying one or two, which means they might not, there is that possibility over minutes and start. And of course, Liverpool have cup commitments as well, and so this may not be as big for them as it was in previous seasons. But I think they're better. I think there are better options. I'm currently not captaining or vice captaining a Liverpool player, but one guy I have got my eye on is this lad, Fernandes, and there he is again. There's that lovely picture of Martial smiling away because he's finally got someone to assist him. Martial, not a bad option, but it's Fernandes. I think he looks hard to ignore for the captaincy this week because he is taking on a really, really poor Spurs defence. I don't know what sort of stats you've got as well. I've got a few stats about how bad Spurs are.
Yeah, they look bad, don't they?
But yeah, just what do you think? Fernandes is a captaincy option against Spurs.
Yeah, I think it's a really good shout. Really, really good shout. Fernandes has really become very reliable very quickly. And we've all kind of waxed lyrical about him like quite a lot already. I think you only got to watch one United game. And those of you who have watched even more than that will know it's so obvious that he's transformed that team. Creative player, has goals in him as well. Exactly the type of player you'd want to captain if he's in good form and has a good fixture. He has both of those things. Spurs, it's really weird to say, but Spurs have become whipping boys. And that, sound the klaxon. We have a new whipping boy.
Yeah.
Spurs.
Yeah.
In the last 4 matches, they conceded 44 shots. That's the joint second worst. That's level with Norwich, West Ham. Only Villa have conceded more, but obviously it's Villa. That's no consolation at all. So they're comfortably in the bottom 6 for that Spurs. Only 6 off Villa. Then the chances they're conceding are also largely quite big. So they've conceded 12 big chances. Only Southampton, Bournemouth and Villa have conceded more. So again, bottom 4 or 5 for that stat as well. And then the XG as well. They should have conceded 9.34 goals. Second worst in the division. Again, you guessed it, behind only Villa. Yeah. But they only conceded 8. So the XG is saying they should have conceded more goals. So if you've got a defence that's shipping high quality shots, and is not conceding as many as it should, and they're about to go into a match against an informed, creative and threatening midfielder such as Fernandes, his colleague Martial, they're upbeat after beating Man City. They look fantastic. They look revitalised under Solskjaer. Like this, I don't like to deal in absolutes, but if this game was like a 4-0 to Man United, I would not be shocked at all. And of course, we haven't even started on the Mourinho factor. I mean, there's just so many narratives at play that the ceiling for this game, I think, is really high for Fernandes. Penalties in there as well. He just has everything. So if I still don't have Fernandes because I'm trying to dead end my team for 31. He'll definitely be on my wild card, but if I owned him for this game, I think I'd just captain him and leave it and just be like, I'm not going to consider anybody else because the potential for him to get a massive double-figure haul is really high.
I know. I've had him for 3 game weeks, and I've had points for 3 game weeks from him. He's just no letting up, and he looks great. And he's my captain at the moment. I think looking at the live chat as well, Martin Boyle makes a good point, especially with this picture we've got up of Martial and Fernandes. Find someone who looks at you the way Martial looks at Bruno Fernandes. And that sums it up for me. I mean, they're happy to see him. Of course they are, because he's the missing link that Manchester United needed. They needed a creative midfielder, and he's really good. And go for it. Yeah, you mentioned those stats there about Tottenham. The expected goals conceded stats was the one that I thought was quite eye-popping. I looked at this before Villa played Leicester, so bearing in mind Villa's expected goals conceded stats are going to be awful now, really bad. But yeah, before that Leicester game for Villa, expected goals conceded was 10. That's the worst for Villa. Tottenham, second, 9.3. They're just behind. Tottenham are almost as bad as Villa's defence. That's what we're talking about here. So, Fernandes captaincy. I have my vice captaincy on a player. Let's have a look and see who it is. It's It's Aubameyang against my team Brighton. I actually think he's a good captaincy shout as well. Yes, he did blank against West Ham. Yes, he's playing on the left. Yes, he has a tough game against Manchester City. We were talking a bit before on air, there are coronavirus fears perhaps over some of the Arsenal players because what was I right in saying? The Olympiacos chairman as positive.
Well, on the coronavirus thing, I mean, obviously at this sort of stage, I don't want to, sow panic. I like to talk purely in just sort of, factual things that are out there. The owner of Olympiacos has basically announced that he has coronavirus. They obviously played Arsenal less than 2 weeks ago, so let's see what happens there. Obviously, hopefully everything's fine, but that obviously is a concern that's going to be there for everybody. I'm not going to go as far as to say that, coronavirus is going to start affecting my FPL strategy, but we will see. All I can say is we'll see. Outside of that, let's get back to Aubameyang, who, Aubameyang. He's such an enigma. He really is. I brought him in for Gameweek 29. I took a hit to get him because I like the look of the fixture. And I just feel like an idiot, to be honest, because I've said for such a long time that he is not the type of player you can rely on to get to deliver on his form and the form of the defence he's facing exactly when you need it to, especially when it's a London team like West Ham. And against West Ham, obviously he was on the flank and was just barely involved. I think he had like one shot. I think he had maybe 2 or 3 touches in the box.
Yeah,
and that's rubbish. That is not captainable material at all.
No.
But the thing is, we're recording this video before the Man City game, and who knows? I mean, he's the type of player that could get a brace in that game, and then maybe my view on him is completely changed. But I still, completely blank slate. If I could have any players this week, I'd still captain Fernandes.
Yeah.
So there's enough concern about Aubameyang anyway, and that's before we even get started on Basuma at Brighton, who seems to be having quite a calming effect on the defence there. He was fantastic against Wolves. And he's basically, I think he's started 3 games in a row now. He's now keeping Dale Stephens out of the team, even though he's back from injury, and that's quite big. I'm not a Brighton expert, but I'm led to believe that if you're keeping Dale Stephens out of the team, you must be doing something right. So I think that Brighton are going to be harder to break down as we run into the end of the season, because Graham Potter knows that he's having issues with scoring goals, so he has to keep it tight if they're going to stay up, and that's going to play that's going to have a big impact on anyone who plays Brighton, especially at Brighton. So, I'd struggle to captain Aubameyang in that particular game for all those reasons, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he's my vice captain. I quite like him, but I don't like him as much as I like Fernandes. The points about Brighton there. So, yes, they kept Wolves at bay last time out, but it's worth noting, for some reason, historically, Wolves do not score much, if at all, against Brighton. I don't know why. It's something historically. This happened for a number of seasons now, in a number of divisions, obviously. The point you make there about Basuma. I was looking at expected goals conceded last four matches with Brighton. So they've conceded 3 over their last 4. It's not bad. That's not bad at all, considering that they're a relegation embattled side. But they should have conceded 5. So. You could look at that 2 ways. They're keeping those big chances at bay, or they've just been lucky. They should have conceded 5. Aubameyang for me, vice captain, I think. Now, here's another option. Now, I don't own any Chelsea players, but I sort of wish I did. And I do have 2 free transfers. And also, and for the point of view of this podcast and video, I'd be tempted to captain a Chelsea player. So Chelsea hammered Everton, and then they take on a team that the phrase whipping boys just barely does justice to. I mentioned about Villa's stats. They're not even whipping boys, they're a new level of whipping boy.
I don't know what's beyond that.
But here's the problem with Chelsea. It's a great fixture, and they're in form. But who do you captain? If you were going to take a punt on a Chelsea player, who would it be?
Oh, it's really tough. Really tough. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Villa's defence. I mean, for anyone who didn't watch last night's game, because if you're a Perez owner and you didn't have to do it for work like some of us, that's me. You didn't watch the game. If you did watch the game, they were so bad. I mean, the amount of times I've seen Villa just get ripped apart this season is just crazy. I mean, and a lot of it's individual errors. I just don't really know what them. I mean, there was zonally marking from corners, They were, Mings was all over the place positionally. I still struggle to. I'm sure some Villa fans will slate me for this. I don't know why he's in the England conversation at all. You got Rayner making very questionable decisions. Gilbert was poor as well, just completely flat-footed all the time. So Chelsea will probably win this game very comfortably. But as you say, actually pinning down one of these Chelsea players, very tricky. I mean, I don't think I'd captain a Chelsea player because I think, but for that exact reason, it's a bit like Man City, isn't it? That, when you aren't sure, it's less about rotation with Chelsea, although of course that still happens a fair amount, but it's more about the patchiness of their form. I feel like they're not reliable yet. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd maybe go Giroud, but I mean, I guess you got to keep an eye on the Abraham situation. So I'm recording.
Well, he's not due back until I think beginning of April.
Yeah,
according to the official site.
Yeah, I mean that's helpful, but I'd still, I don't know, I'd still just have a little bit because Batshuayi obviously is there as well. They've got Champions League to think about. Yeah, and again, I'd maybe say Willian because he's kind of one of those players who's a bit talismanic for them. But then again, at the same time, he's also quite patchy. So,
I was looking at his minutes. He's patchy because he's not playing. So I've looked at his minutes. He's like, say, 70, 80 minutes, and then it's like 12. What can you do? I mean, it's really hard, isn't it? What about Alonso, though? So, I mean, Villa are at home.
Yeah, maybe actually, yeah.
So I think they're going to score, but they're not going to win. Which slightly dents my interest in a Chelsea defender slightly. But Alonso's about attacking threat as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about Alonso.
So I think Alonso could be the real Maverick captaincy choice.
Yeah, he could be great this week, definitely. I personally, I think Villa could struggle to score because again, going back to Monday night's game, they were really bad. They at both ends of the pitch. So Mata was really, really isolated. They couldn't get hold of the ball in midfield. As much as I've kind of slated Ings a few minutes ago, but you've got to criticise their central midfield as well. Douglas Luiz was caught out of position too often, and so then if they're not winning that midfield battle, it's not helping either end of the pitch. And there's only so much Grealish can do on his own. Away from home, generally Villa are quite bad. So if we talk, I talked about Fernandes having a fantastic ceiling. I think Alonso is the same because I think a clean sheet is likely.
Attacking return as well,
and attacking returns, of course. And to be honest, he's going to be, if he starts, he's going to be up against Gilbert. And if Gilbert plays as bad as he did last night, then he's going to have him on toast. So it could be another big call.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're entering that stage of the season where whatever your rank is, you need to do something a little bit different to climb those rankings. And captaining Alonso, dare I say Willian or Giroud, is that sort of move. Because everyone usually captains Salah. If they owned Mane in the same numbers, they would captain him. So this is a good week to be different. Some weeks it's not good to be different because if Salah's going to do well and he's captained by everyone, that's not the week. But that's not going to be the case this week, I don't think. So the likes of Fernandes, Aubameyang, even Giroud, Alonso, these are good options, I think. Here's a team we haven't mentioned yet. Now, Man City are playing Burnley, so what the hell are we doing? Talking about them? How long are we? We've been talking for 19 minutes, and suddenly Man City get mentioned. Part of the reason is probably this guy, KDB. We don't know. This is going ahead before the Arsenal game. We don't know whether he's going to be fit. Aguero was hobbled off. Was nursing some kind of injury. We don't know. That could be nothing. He's rotation. The 3 R's. What do we do? Man City against Burnley should be a shoo-in for the captaincy, but not so at the moment.
No. I mean, they're obviously suffering from the fact that all their games are so squeezed together. And, of course, what dominates the whole rotation fear at the moment is that exact quote from Pep where he's basically said a few days ago that to him, right now, the most important games are Newcastle in the Cup and Real Madrid in the Champions League, which makes complete sense because I think top 4 is pretty much locked in for them, I'd say. And if they're gonna win anything this year, because Guardiola is all about the trophies, then FA Cup and Champions League are the way to do it. So he's obviously going to prioritise those. So again, it's tricky because we're recording this before the Arsenal game, because for all we know, that could just be mind games in relation to the Arsenal game, because of course he's going up against his old assistant. So for all we know, he's pulling out all the stops to throw Arteta off. So if he's going to start some players, you maybe think if he's going to start some key players, you do it for the Arsenal game, and then that maybe means the Burnley game is the one that he pulls some of them out again, and you get your Fodens and your Garcias and your Cancelos and what have you. So yeah, you just don't know who's going to play. You got no clue. I like to, whenever we start coming further down the list, you've got to look back up the top of the list at who your alternatives are, and you don't know which City player is going to play. Bruno Fernandes is definitely going to play. Martial is definitely going to play. Salah and Mane definitely going to play. So those guys are just, they're so much more important. Because yes, you're right. You should start being different at this stage of the season, but you've kind of got to be different. Still, in my opinion, you've still got to be different with some certainties and in mind in terms of like who's going to start. I'd rather captain a player who I was confident was going to start than one I thought if he starts he might bang, but he could also be on the bench. I just feel that's too risky even now. I think that's the kind of thing you do like game week 36, 37, 38. And of course Burnley as well. I mean, let's not sort of do them any injustice. I mean, they're a team that's more than capable of going to the Etihad and just sticking everyone behind the ball for the whole game, and maybe keeping it tight like a 1 or 2-0, or even getting a point out of it. Burnley, I find it very hard to captain anyone against Burnley, and I think we all know why. We all see the way that Sean Dyche likes to lay his team out. Standard 4-4-2 in full Mike Bassett mode, and he's not letting up anytime soon. So yeah, very, very tricky to captain a Man City player. I mean, it's always one of those ones where someone will probably do it, and Mahrez will play and get a hat trick or something. But I know you're going to agree, Joe. We're both very similar managers, aren't we? Yeah. We don't like to take those sorts of risks.
Yeah, no, I just don't know who's going to start.
Thing we have.
I don't know who's going to start. But I also possibly, if I knew they were going to start, because it's at home, I might have favoured the likes of KDB or Aguero, but I don't know where they're going to start. But Burnley are mid-table, and as you said, they are a bit tough to call sometimes. So they should, according to the XGC, so the expected goals conceded stats, they've actually conceded 4, but they should have conceded 6. So their defence has actually been marginally lucky, I would say, so far. But nevertheless, that's not huge. They're not Villa. They're not Whitby. They're not Tottenham. They're not that bad. And obviously the big one is what Pep said. He's basically said he didn't give a jot about any of these matches. He's just interested in the cup game. So goodbye, Man City captains. And we're going to talk about this on the Scoutcast tonight, particularly KDB. If no one at Man City seems to care about the Premier League anymore, why are they in our squad even? But anyway, that's for tonight. Here's the picture that says it's barrel scraping time. It's a look at the Gameweek 30 fixtures. Is there anyone else to consider?
No, surely not. Surely not at this stage. I think it's funny. I arguably think the Man City players were the barrel scrapers, which is perhaps sacrilege to say, but we've covered the reasons why. You just don't even know if they're going to start, so they have to be at the bottom. And most of the other fixtures are just Watford v Leicester. I mean, that could be a 0-0, could be a 3-3. Who knows? I mean, I'm going to keep Sarr, for example, but I'm certainly not going to captain him. Bournemouth v Palace. I mean, again, there's just no one there you could trust at all. Newcastle, Sheffield United. The only thing I can trust there is the lack of goals. Norwich, Southampton. To be honest, the same. So, West Ham, Wolves. I think some people might look at Jimenez and Jota and think, oh, yeah, that looks quite nice against West Ham. But I think we can all agree that West Ham's defence is starting to improve. I mean, it's kind of struggling to really bear out in the stats just yet if we look at last 4, because obviously their last 4 still kind of includes, Man City and Liverpool and what have you. They're still sort of in the bottom half of things like shots in the box conceded and chances conceded. And obviously XGC is still quite high because you always allow high XG chances against like City Liverpool because it's City Liverpool. But from the eye test and watching them against Arsenal, to be honest, even watching them against Liverpool, they are getting better. I'm not surprised at all because David Moyes is very experienced and he's kind of getting everybody, back to fitness. I think, he's had some injuries, so I off the top of my head, don't exactly know if he's back this weekend or back anytime soon. But Thomas Souček seems to be a good signing. Who's because clearly the problem for them was their midfield and protecting the back 4. I think they're going to do a better job of that moving forward. I think the days of captaining someone against West Ham possibly dwindling. Wolves. I wouldn't.
They're nowhere near whipping boys at the moment. They're not even.
No.
I don't know. What's a little whip? Like a chamois leather. They're not even those type of boys anymore. So I just want to go back to Leicester. I do think with Watford, I don't know which Watford are going to turn up. Is it going to be the one that can completely hammer Liverpool? Or is it the one that can get beaten by Manchester United? It's at home, so I think, err on the side of Watford a little bit there. But it is Leicester.
Most home clean sheets this year.
Yes. Vardy looks back. Barnes has just come off 19 points, and that's not a fluke. He has been good for a while. I do think if I saw
Ndidi's back as well.
Ndidi's back. That's helping the defence, helping the attack. Everything's moving a bit there. If I saw someone with captaining Vardy or even Barnes, I would not go, my God, what are you doing? I would think, okay, that's fair enough. Give it a go. It's a good week to do it. We've scraped the barrel. Just a quick chance to say that some of the stats, especially those expected goals conceded stats, I do like them in this. I think I do like them in this captaincy video and pod, because it just assesses who's been lucky and unlucky, and it just helps the eye test a little bit there. But they're all from the members area in Fantasy Football Scout. You get monthly and membership for the rest of the season. But for now, David, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with the captaincy decision in Game Week 30.
Cheers. Thank you very much, and good luck to you as well.